You're listening to Defending Faith, Family, and Freedom, featuring Gary Bauer, Senior Vice President of Public Policy at the Dr. James Dobson Family Institute. And now, here's Gary.
Hello, welcome to the JDFI podcast, Defending Faith, Family, and Freedom. I'm Gary Bauer, Senior Vice President of JDFI for Public Policy. Pleasure to have you with us. I've got some news. Some of you might think it's good news. Some of you may think it's bad news. But apparently the 2024 presidential campaign is underway. President Biden just a few days ago made the announcement that he's running for re-election in 2024 for a second term. And he did an interesting thing. He released a 6-minute video about what the campaign was going to be about in his mind. And that's not the usual way that you do it. But we listened to it, and I have to tell you, we were a little bit concerned about the content of the message, because even though we're a nonprofit organization, we don't get involved in partisan politics. We don't do efforts to defeat candidates or endorse candidates. We do care about issues. Everybody at the James Dobson Family Institute care, just as you do, about the sanctity of life, about building strong marriages, about raising children with the right values. All of these things that Dr. Dobson and all of us have been devoted to in our professional careers. And we know you care about those things. And that's what bothered us about this 6-minute analysis, or this 6-minute announcement that President Biden made, because he dealt with a lot of those issues in a way that's completely contrary to the values we here at JDFI have. And I want to talk about those issues for you today and tell you about why our antenna went up when we watched the president's announcement. So, we'll leave it to the political process to figure out who the next president is. But in this 6-minute video, President Biden said some things on a number of issues that we just think are flat wrong. And he also said some things about people who have the views that we have. And one of our jobs, one of our mandates that we're very committed to, is to defend you, to defend people like you. In an America where there's a lot of pressure on us these days. If you say something the wrong way, you could get canceled. There's all kinds of attacks on religious liberty. There's all kinds of efforts underway to make normal Christian views sound as if there's some sort of extreme, unusual thing. And so I wanted to take some time with you today to share with you why we're concerned about this announcement, the content of the announcement that President Biden made. Now, the first thing that jumped out at me is that at the very beginning of the 6-minute video, I'm talking about 5 or 6 seconds into the video, just as the president begins to speak, the image on the screen is of a demonstrator outside the Supreme Court. And the demonstrator's carrying a sign that says abortion is healthcare. No, it's not. Abortion's an important issue. There's heated debate about it. There are people on both sides that feel very strongly, but it's not healthcare. Healthcare is when you try to save somebody's life, or when you try to cure a disease they might be suffering from. Pregnancy is not a disease. Abortion is about the taking of an innocent human life. That happens in virtually every abortion. It's also about the exploitation of women who find themselves in a difficult pregnancy or a crisis pregnancy or whatever. And for the president to sign off on a video that repeats this distortion, that somehow if you believe in the sanctity of life, you're against healthcare. Well, that I don't, I'm a little hesitant to call something a lie, but I would say that's a lie. I don't know if the president fully understands it, but that's just not the truth. Now, look, I'm not surprised that this is one of the first things that was emphasized in the video. The president has been very clear that he does not want the number of abortions in America to decline. They've even set up a working group of different cabinet agencies. And the job of this working group is to keep the number of abortions up in America as high as it can be kept. I know that sounds hard to believe, but that's the purpose of the working group. Look, they have even seriously considered declaring an abortion emergency, like the COVID emergency. But the abortion emergency would be declared because of the fear that the number of abortions would decline in 2023. Wow, that's about the only thing I can say. Now, so that's a bad start in the video. But then the president goes on to say that what he wanted to talk about is freedom. And my ears perked up because I'm all for freedom. JDFI is all for freedom. And we know what the word means in American history. Our Bill of Rights has the important freedoms that, thank God, we live in a country and are able to enjoy: the freedom of speech, the freedom of assembly, the freedom of religion, important freedoms, the freedom to be able to protect your family and to keep them safe, the freedom to raise your children with the values you want. Unfortunately, the president didn't mention any of those freedoms in the 6-minute video. The very next issue he went to was, again, referring to those of us that are pro-life. He said we were extremists. And not only did, we wanted to control abortion or restrict abortion, but we wanted, now hold on, folks, you might want to buckle up on this, we wanted to ban books. What? I I don't know anybody that's out there saying let's ban books that adults can read. There are no bonfires of books like there were in the 1930s in Nazi Germany as the Nazis were gaining power, when Nazis on the university campuses got all the books written by Jewish authors, believe it or not, and they made big bonfires and set them on fire, and professors and students celebrated the burning of these books by Jewish authors. Disgusting. Now that's hate. That's terrible. Everybody would oppose something like that. But thank God that's not happening in America. What in the world is the president referring to when he refers to banning books? Well, it's pretty clear. He's talking about the controversy that has sprung up all over the country, where parents discovered that their children in the classroom or in the school library were being exposed to books that handled very sensitive subjects, books about human sexuality, books about issues of interest to the LGBTQ community, books about transgenderism, that told children that, maybe they're a boy trapped in a girl's body or a girl trapped in a boy's body. Now, to make it even worse, what a lot of parents discovered is this material wasn't being brought into high schools. It wasn't even being brought just into junior highs. It was being brought in, these things were being brought into elementary schools. One of the first states to deal with this controversy was Florida, and the state legislature was outraged. So were parents. So was the governor, because they found out that children in the first, second, and third grade were being introduced to these subjects. And so parents all over the country are beginning to look at the information their children are being exposed to. State legislatures have passed laws saying that this is inappropriate material for little kids because they are not intellectually or emotionally prepared to process material like this. Now, words are very important. That's not banning a book. Nobody is taking all the copies of these books and saying that an adult can't read them. Nobody's taking those books and burning them all. Nobody's telling the publisher, you've got to withdraw this book. No, it's very clear and very simple what parents are asking here. Don't teach my 7 and 8 year old about human sexuality issues without me having input as a parent. That's a very reasonable position to take. It is the position of the James Dobson Family Institute. How dare the president refer to that as book banning? Well, he didn't stop there. He went on and said that us extremists, us pro-lifers, us citizens that want our children to be safe from explicit sexual material, we were also trying to stop people from loving the people they loved. What? How would you even do that? I mean, that would require a police state, and even then you couldn't do it. People love who they're going to love. Now, I think it's pretty obvious that what the president was referring to is that millions of Americans, millions of Christians, the overwhelming majority of the people that are part of the James Dobson Family Institute, we still believe that marriage was an institution created by God and that its purpose was to bring together a man and a woman to bring children into the world and then raise those children with the right values. That's how a culture, how a society continues. Now, unfortunately, the Supreme Court a number of years ago now changed that definition of marriage. We believe that that Supreme Court decision was a mistake. We're still hopeful that that mistake can be repealed someday. But that's a lot different than saying we're trying to stop people from loving the people they love. But by the way, you can love somebody in America and still not have the right to marry them. There are people out there that say, and the other two people agree, that they're in love with more than one person. Well, in the United States, we don't allow more than two people to get married. Uh, More than two people getting married is called polygamy, and it's not allowed in the United States. I hope the president wasn't suggesting he was open to that redefinition of marriage. Thankfully, we don't allow an adult that thinks he's feeling love or sexual attraction to a child. We don't allow them to get married either because a child can't consent to such a marriage. So the president, this is a form of demagoguery here. It's just not appropriate. But I think here's the thing that's really disturbing about this. These are the only real subjects the president dealt with in any detail in his announcement speech. So it suggests that the 2024 campaign may be about these very issues that are core to what the James Dobson Family Institute is all about and which we believe all of you care about deeply. So we'll see what happens next. And again, we don't endorse candidates. We don't attack candidates. Each of you will make your own judgments over the next long, long campaign. I can't believe we're in it already. But we do talk about issues. I mean, if we didn't talk about issues, there'd be no family talk. Dr. Dobson has been devoted to these issues, as I have, as our whole team has, for years. And we will continue to talk about those issues because even though they're fought in the political arena, all of these issues have a moral core to them, a moral dimension. Now, I want to say one more thing as we sign off here. If the campaign ahead is all about these issues, my goodness, at the James Dobson Family Institute, we're going to all be buckling up because we're going to be working 20-hour days. We're going to be working 6 days a week to be dealing with all the information that will be needed in such a campaign. Now, Dr. Dobson, he's one of a million in this. Dr. Dobson does not make hard ask for money. And if I made a hard ask for your financial support, he'd probably kick me you know where. So I'm not going to do that. But what I am going to say is this team at JDFI, they are working like crazy right now. They do it for relatively modest salaries. And we're going to be providing you, we already do, with a lot of incredible material on how to raise your children, how to strengthen your marriage, how to understand these issues that America is debating right now. So I would like to just ask you prayerfully in the days and weeks ahead, and quite frankly, after you tune off from this, sign off from this podcast, to just prayerfully consider whether, if you're not a financial supporter, you could start to be one right now. Or maybe you are a financial supporter of our ministry and you might be able to do a little bit more. And so I'm asking you, this is self-generated here. Nobody asked me to do this. I'm asking you to prayerfully consider at a time when we're facing a lot of challenges and a lot of battles, if you could invest a little bit more in our ministry to help us help you make sure that America remains one nation under God, built on ordered liberty under that God. Well, God bless all of you. Thank you for your attention, and I'll be back with you soon. God bless.
Subscribe to Gary Bauer's Defending Faith, Family, and Freedom, where you find your favorite podcasts. Just hit the subscribe button to ensure you receive every episode.